Hi guys, it's me, Kim. I feel like I'm closer to the camera than I normally am, but maybe I'm not. I don't think I moved this freaking chair. So why do I feel different? I don't know. Anyways, I'm back. We're going to talk today about feminist sex. I wanted to talk, there are certain things that I would just never talk about on the regular internet because I don't know, like, do I want my mom to log on to YouTube and hear me talking about penises? No, not really. But I still think that there are interesting conversations to be had about feminism. So, I wanted to talk about sex because I think it is such an important negotiation for any person, whatever gender you are, but particularly if you're a woman, navigating bodily autonomy and sexuality and power is so freaking tricky. And I think this particularly comes to light in the era of Me Too, because what is so useful about Me Too is how it centers that our romantic interactions, our sexual interactions, are about sex and libido and desire, but they are also very much about power. Very much about power and navigating those dynamics. Anyways, I'm already rambling. I'm trying to streamline this. I say this every time. I'm trying to freaking streamline these videos. But I just get to talking. So anyways, I'll say about a year ago, I'm deep into feminist theory. I love theory. I always say that. Ooh, I didn't put on any foundation. So, I love old school feminists. And I love the feminists that young feminists don't like. So, I love bell hooks. I love Andrea Dworkin. I even like Catherine McKinnon. I just like them because I think it really takes a lot to be first, obviously those women aren't the first feminists on the face of the planet, but they are certainly. Ooh, I thought I said last time I was gonna mix this. Okay, anyways, it's too late. We've already done it. So I just think and by first I don't mean that these people are the first feminists, obviously not, right? We gotta pay homage to Ida and them. But certainly being the first to articulate certain kinds of ideas, that's hard. That's not easy. And so I certainly respect, even if I don't 100% agree with what they're saying, I respect the OGs, and it really annoys me how comfortable people get with disrespecting the OGs. I'm like, girl, I'm not gonna go off on my, but particularly around people like bell hooks, I'm like, girl, the only reason why people are even open to reading your little raggedy tweets is because people like bell hooks laid out what it means to do cultural criticism that incorporates an intersectional lens. The OG, right? Respect your OGs. I believe in that, particularly when it comes to feminism. So anyways, back to sex. So I was reading Andrea Dworkin last year. Sometimes I'm like, do I really mean last year? But I do mean last year because it's January. And basically, Dworkin took a lot of shit throughout her life because she was very anti-sex. So consequently, she was anti-sex worker, basically. And, I don't agree, but whatever. And she was anti-sex worker because of her understanding of sex being about control and power. And there are lots of parts of Dworkin's theory that I'm not in, right? I don't agree, right? I'm pro-sex worker. Do what you want, right? We're already in capitalism. So is it more moral for me to sell my labor like this than it is for you to use your body? I mean, you know, it's like, girl, we all just trying to pay rent. But I think that we can eschew certain parts of the theory, well, while not completely doing away with some of the questions that Dworkin asked. And one of the reasons why she wasn't Poppington, or she wasn't really popular and people felt the need to always distance themselves from her, one, because feminist women are always, and this is so annoying to me even today, that feminist women are always trying to do this work of, we don't hate men. We don't hate men. We love men. Men aren't the enemy. And I don't think men are always the enemy, but sometimes men are the enemy. Right? We can say that. Like it just is really annoying to me that we have to spend so much time saying, man, we love men. And it's like, girl, you know, it's pick me feminism, basically. And I don't subscribe to that at all. Whew, you know, it takes me a long time to get to make these points, but the point I'm trying to make is, I'm trying to give y'all the background. I'm trying to give the background. So, Andrea Dworkin was certainly not a feminist who cared about whether or not people thought she liked men. And I love that. I love that. Who cares? Okay, if we're talking about the business of liberation, who cares? So one of the things that she was a proponent of was saying that all heterosexual sex is rape. Remember, there was one particular essay that I read last year and I was like, whoa. I can't remember the name right now. I will attach a PDF under this video. Now, why did Dworkin believe all sex is rape? Because of the inherent power dynamic. Now, it's really easy to dismiss that idea out of hand, but I think that it is, that if we like spend some time with it, you know, then you can really see what she means. So, so like in the modern era, it's like much more widely accepted now that we call sex between minors and adult men, right? Minors and majors, I don't know. People of age. Rape. And we call it rape because in our understanding of consent, our new understanding of consent, we recognize that even if a minor is willing, and I'm not as black or white on this as other people, but that's a controversial viewpoint that maybe I've gotten so much powder on this friggin' sweater already. So anyways, but I'll just speak in generalities. We say that minors cannot consent to sex with adults. I'm gonna have to wet this freaking beauty blender because it ain't gonna work like this. I was really trying to use a dry ass beauty blender like that was really gonna do something. It was not. So anyways, we say minors cannot consent to sex with adult men, or adult anybody. Minors cannot consent to sex with adults because we know that women and people of all genders can be predators because of the power difference, right? Children, you know, don't have the power, right? Their brains are not formed. They do not have the power to consent. Also, let's take it even between adults, right? So we also call when a prison guard has sex with a prisoner rape. Because the guard has the power, right? It's also, right, a couple of years ago, there was the Daniel Holtzclaw case where Daniel Holtzclaw was coercing women in Oklahoma City and, you know, forcing them to have sex, groping them, forcing them to perform sexual acts on him, whatever, right? Now, even if they were adults, even if they were adults, and some of them were not, I think there was at least one minor. It is wrong because he has the power. You know, people don't have the ability to have real agency when there's such an unequal power dynamic. So when we think about those cases, then you better understand where Andrea Dworkin was coming from when she says intercourse. And she said sex, but obviously, well, not obviously, but we know now she talks about intercourse. And even in this paper that I read, which was so good and so interesting, she literally was talking about penetration. Male, female. Now, I thought that was so interesting looking back on my own life. Now I am almost 30. I say this every fucking video. I'm almost 30 years old. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not scared. I don't feel bad. I feel great. I feel good. I feel very focused. I feel a little heavier than I would like to be, but I feel good in my body. And one of the reasons why I feel good in my body is because I now have much more ability to say yes and to say no and say what I like and say what I don't like in all aspects of life, including my sexual life. Right? So I feel that I have the ability to say no and be pleased and all of that, but I haven't always had that ability. And so that's one of the reasons why I was so drawn to Dworkin, because girls and women, and it's hard to have this without being heteronormative, and I feel like I'm being heteronormative because I can only speak to my experience as a straight black woman who is cisgender. But in my experience as a straight black woman, before I became fully grown, there are so many instances where I said yes, right? It wasn't, I have been sexually assaulted, but even in my sexual experiences that were not rape or assault, there was also coercion, right? But not like the, if you don't do this, you have to do this kind of coercion. It's a more subtle form of coercion where everybody's doing it, you know he expects it, you want to make him happy, let's just get on with the night, like let's just get this over with. If we don't do it, we're gonna have to talk about it. Like, there's just so many other things that come into play. It's not just about the was I raped or not, right? There's so much gray area. And I think one of the reasons why there's such a virulent pushback to Dworkin, who I think was just a brilliant mind. She also wrote another book that is so prescient called Right Wing Women, or Right Wing Woman. Anyways, it's about conservative women. That was so good. And if you want to know how we got to this point, love that freaking book. But people want to think that they always are in control. You're not. You know, I'm very much into, okay, there are spots where we're always negotiating, you know, particularly as a woman, particularly as a black woman. Our lives are filled with negotiations. And those negotiations mean that you are trying to balance the costs and benefits or whatever you do. And for a lot of women, the costs of saying yes when you don't really want to, when you're not feeling it, when he's not good, when you're not being pleased, when you know you're not gonna have an orgasm, right? The costs of saying no don't outweigh the benefits. And one of the reasons why they don't outweigh the benefits is because our society is still structured to put men in control. So, you know, this is where my anti-capitalist politic, it's real. You see, everything is kind of murky, right? Because capitalism is not going to save us, right? Capitalism requires the exploitation of people to function. But we are already living in this world with few choices available to us. We already are. That's a thing that's happening right now. But you are especially subject to abuse and coercion if you don't have any money. We see this all the time. We see it all the time. Women say all the time, women who are abused, say that they stayed because of the money, right? They stayed because they have children, and you know that your ex is not going to take care of his kids. If y'all are not living in the same house, you stay because you need somewhere to, literally need somewhere to live. You need money, you need access to resources. That's a real thing. So as a feminist who, you know, I've read all the Angela Davis, I've read all the Marxist feminists, I recognize that this system of capitalism, it ain't working for us. It's not working out. But I'm not like in favor of like the Beyonce capitalism where it's like all about excess and like my great grandchildren already rich, you know what I'm saying? But like people are starving, Beyonce, you know what I'm saying? Like people are dying. So I'm not in favor of that either. But like we also have to balance Beyonce, people are starving. Like, let's not be gauche with a like a kind of naive heralding of suffering, of poverty, because poverty limits your resources. Poverty is what makes you subject to abuses in all realms of life, but particularly in your romantic relationships. And so for me, you know, I have talked before in my dating videos about why it's really important for me to have my own money and you have your own money and we can be happy having our own money separately. You know what I'm saying? Because I never want to be in a position, I never want to be in a position, you need to do your eyebrows next, Kimberly. I don't want to be in a position where I have to stay with this person and take their shit and be raped and coerced because I don't have any money. And so, and it's also, there's levels, right? So it's not just about poverty, right? Because I've never been impoverished. But I have certainly, you know, before, maybe 5 years ago, I was dating this man and he was abusive. Yeah, he was abusive. And I was trying to think, there's levels to abuse, right? So I guess I would say that he was abusive. And one of the reasons why we were together was for so long was because I was living in his house, basically. And he was like paying for everything. And this is when I was trying to get For Harriet off the ground and I wanted to quit my job and I was trying to save money. And so I was there putting up with this man's shit every day. But in the back of my mind, I was saying, okay, well, Kim, we're gonna put up with this shit. But as soon as you have this money, you're gonna go. You're gonna go. You're gonna be off. Now, thankfully, you know, because of resources I already had, I was able to leave. Lots of people are not able to leave, right? And I think that there are lots of women right now who are having sex with people that they don't really want to have sex with, right? Doing stuff they don't really want to do, right? Because what are the options? And, you know, sometimes, you know, we call it compromise and, you know, it's give and take and relationships are against sometimes. But I also, one thing, the compromise falls on women more often than not, right? So even, you know, in churches, they say stuff like, never say no to your husband. And I'm like, this is rapist theology. What are you talking about? That compromise is shouldered by women, but also it is not just about, you know, for me, a compromise is, I want to go to Chick-fil-A, you want to go to P.F. Chang's. Well, we went to Chick-fil-A last week. But when it comes to your body, right? a body that you probably already have kind of a tenuous relationship with, because you probably never even got real, you probably never had the opportunity to have full control over your body or feel good in your, like most of us, like I said, I've mentioned my body stuff, and I'm woke. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like to mention my body stuff and my struggles and the stuff that I'm going to, because, girl, I read all the books and I'm still struggling. I'm woke and I'm still struggling. So I know there are other people out there still trying to deal with this, right? So then we get into a world where it's normalized. Well, you just say yes to get it over with. You know, you suck it up. That's your compromise. You're compromising your body over and over again. So when Dworkin is talking about all intercourse being rape, she is saying, until, I don't know why this became a lecture on Dworkin. I guess because I kind of agree with it a little bit. So I think that limited agency is still agency, and we have the ability to navigate. But until our social structures are equal, can our sexual relationships be equal? If you're having sex with men? I think that is a good question. I think it is a good and legitimate question. For real. Particularly as I navigate relationships with men. You know, at this point in my life, I don't date anti-feminist men. No need. It's not necessary for me. But even men who say that they're feminist, who say that they are progressive, even those men are socialized into the idea that they have the power, right? That, and also our myths about women's sexuality, right? The myth is women don't want sex as much as men and whatever. And I'm like, no. I also feel like those kind of myths are used to justify the way that men coerce women into sexual activity, right? So if we say, well, guys just want it. They just want it more. They just need it more. And you're not feeling it, and you're like, oh, well, this is biological drive, so I'm just gonna go with it. And then you just acquiesce because it's like, well, he can't help it, you know, he's just being guided by his penis, he can't help it. And it's like, so what? So what? You know what I'm saying? My natural urge is to poop outside, but I don't do that. I hold it in. So anyways, until it is completely normalized for men to view women's bodies and sexualities as important as their own. Trying to do this freaking line. So when you're trying to do your eyebrows and your eyebrows are not done, there's a lot of negotiations you gotta do, right? So I'm trying to make my own arch, because there's not a real arch. As an adult, because I have a certain amount of power, I don't need your money. You know, there's been so many articles and conversations recently about a sex recession, right? That younger people are actually having less sex than our parents, which I believe, right? By the time my mom was my age, she had 2 kids. She'd been divorced twice. I am sure she had more sex than I did. But I also think I have better sex than she did. Now, we haven't talked about it, but I would guess. Just knowing my mom, knowing the lessons about sex that I was given, I probably have better sex than she did, right? So it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality for me. And one of the reasons why I'm able to have good sex now is because, one, I don't sleep with assholes. Seriously, right? I think people give you a lot of clues about who they are, what they're into, what matters to them. You know, I see it when we're out at dinner, right? So we don't need to take that home. And I guess maybe I feel like I have a pretty healthy sexual appetite, but at this juncture, my sexual appetite is not more important to me than not fucking an asshole. Like, it's just not. So I vet people and I'm also much more able to say, this is what we're gonna do and this is what we're not gonna do, you know? A part of that is making it clear early on, right? So I think so much a part of like the dating ritual, if you're a hetero woman, and obviously I can't speak for all hetero women, I can only speak for me, but for me, you know, a big part of the socialization that I had to undo was trying to not make any waves. You know what I'm saying? Just going along to get along. It's just not worth it for me. It's just not worth it for me. And I think that, like, I feel really lucky to be in a generation where, like, or maybe this is just, I don't know, my I think it's a class thing, I think it's an education thing, and it's like a who you are around thing. But, like, you know, I talk to my friends and we're just like, he wasn't getting the job done, so he had to go, you know? And nobody is like, oh, you don't have a boyfriend, you don't have a man, and we're all like, no, girl, he wasn't doing it. He wasn't doing what I needed him to do. I said go left, he went right. And we can go along our merry ways. And a part of that is, this is why I think feminists have better sex. I would bet. That's like, I read some article about how feminists have higher body image issues, no, higher self-esteem and feel better about our bodies. First of all, those things are absolutely linked to the type of sex that you can have. I'm sure that there is a study out there somewhere that says feminists have better sex, because being a feminist has helped me, or getting deeper into my feminism, I should say, because I've been a feminist for a decade. But just because you're a feminist doesn't mean that you're having good sex or that you feel good about your body or whatever. But now I am much more able to articulate what pleases me, what doesn't please me, what I'm gonna do, what my boundaries are. And I think all relationships are negotiations. I believe that. But there is a point where you have to say, okay, well, that's not on the table for me, so I'm just gonna go, right? And I am okay with that. And a part of that is choosing the right partner. It's knowing that you're not the only person walking away, right? That's one of the reasons why feminist community, I believe, is so important. Because if you're out here having, you know, these sexual interactions with men and you're walking away feeling like, I didn't have an orgasm, that wasn't fun, I felt coerced, or whatever, I've definitely, you know, I grew up in church. And so there is a rape culture doctrine in church where it's like, well, that's just what you do. But in feminist community, it does feel really good to be able to read so much work, have so many conversations, build these relationships where women are saying, no, that's not what you have to do. Come fuck him. No, we don't have to go along to get along. It's your body. You get to choose what you want to do with your body. Who cares if he doesn't like you saying too much tongue, too much spit, right? Who cares? Like, it is possible to do something else. And also, feminist community has, I think, helped me be okay saying, well, saying no and walking away and being firm about what my boundaries and my desires are and demanding pleasure, every man is not going to be into that, right? You can do all the vetting in the world. You can have all these pre-conversations or whatever. Every man is still not going to be into that. And another thing that, you know, engaging deeply with feminism has helped me do is to be okay walking away and also be okay with, like, the loneliness of that. Now, I don't, 90% of the time, I'm good. Right? I don't feel lonely. I have great relationships with friends. I am obsessed with my nieces, my family. But like, we still live in a society that is made for couples, made for people. And that's a big part of the reasons why, you know, women put up with so much shit, is because often, and I've seen this and felt this, it does feel like, is there a place for people who are unpartnered? You know? And that's another reason why I am not invested in, you know, like I said, I'm really, really skeptical of any feminism that's about telling men how much we love them, how much we need them, how much we desire them and want to fuck them. No, right? Because it's okay to, I think that if we're going to change culture, men are going to have to do their part, but women are going to have to do different stuff too, you know? And this is not like a Lysistrata kind of thing where women withhold sex to teach men a lesson, but certainly I don't believe in the adage of you teach people how to treat you, because I do think that that's like an abuse apologist thing. But I certainly feel like people do know what they can get away with you, right? That's one of the reasons why I had an ex who was not abusive to me. Like, I could just call him abusive because he wasn't abusive to me, but he was certainly abusive to the person he dated after me, and probably the person he dated before me, and I probably looked away. People think, you know, they're sizing you up, and straight men, heterosexual men, sorry, this is a real heteronormative video, I'm sorry. But they're like sizing you up and like, what am I gonna be able to do to her? And I think a part of changing norms is also changing the incentives, like removing the incentives, right? If you recognize that being coercive, being shitty, being an asshole, being a liar is not going to get you what you want, then there's just less incentive for you to keep doing that. And I think, you know, I feel better about my life and my sex life when I know that I am removing those incentives, right? So you're not gonna get it from me. Somebody else can give it to you, right? Because they need a partner and they need access to your money and they want to go on the trips and the dinners or whatever. I don't need that. And I'm comfortable not needing that because I am rooted in lots of communities, including feminist communities, but also I feel good about myself, right? I'm not seeking that external validation. And I think another part of why feminism is so useful for me, I don't know, maybe not for you, is because it has throughout my life encouraged me to sit with myself and take an inventory. That's one of the reasons why I love bell hooks so much, is because so much of her work is not about externalizing, right? Even if you're observing a problem, it's not always just about you did this to me. It's you did this to me and now what's happening inside? Now what am I doing? How am I hurting myself? How am I hurting you? What am I allowing in? And I don't know, now that I'm saying it, it does feel a little, you know, The Secret, but it's not that. But I definitely think that, and of course this is a function of privilege as well, that there are things that I can control, and I'm gonna control what I can control. And there's lots of things. I always fucking blink. Did I just blink? Okay, it's fine. There's lots of things I can't control, but I'm going to control what I can. And that is, if you're a shithead, we're not having sex. Okay, so who can have feminist sex? Oh, so do I think all sex is rape? Kinda. I don't think all sex is rape. I don't. I think it's a provocative statement. I absolutely think it is useful to assess how coercion and lack of access to resources influences all of our relationships, you know, not just our romantic relationships, not just our sexual relationships. I think that coercion plays a part in a lot of our relationships. And if we really take a second to take a step back and think about it, with your mom, with your siblings, with your whomever, with your boss, coercion plays a big part. And I don't know, I feel like I'm theorizing on the go right now, but this will be a place to work through ideas. You know, if we're talking about what rape culture is, I think rape culture is not just about what happens in our bedrooms. It is not just about being blamed for assault. It is also about how people, particularly women, are coerced into giving stuff we don't want to give or don't have the capacity to give, emotional labor, money, time, energy. It's about having to accept stuff that we don't want to accept, but we have to accept it in order to have access to resources. And again, you know, by resources, I'm also including partnership, men, whatever, and how that is normalized. And one of the ways that we normalize it, back to that biology stuff, right? These myths about biology. Oh, well, women are we're just naturally givers. And I am now much more open to the idea that biology influences our actions and our behaviors, but I think we've really leaned into it, right? And one of the reasons why I'm always skeptical of the scientific explanations for exploitation is because I read books. There's just so much history of science, you know, saying women are just too fragile to, I can't find the right brush that I want to use, but I guess we'll just won't use it then. Women are too fragile to have jobs. You know, black people are too stupid to take care of themselves, make their own decisions. So we have to step in. So anyways, the point being, feminism has made my sex life better, absolutely. But not just feminism, right? It's because, like I said, I've been a feminist for a decade, and I was having bad sex and in bad relationships for a good part of that decade. But it is just also about having stuff helps, right? Like, that's the real thing. Having my own shit helps. Knowing that I don't need your shit helps a lot. Having communities, strong relationships helps. I would absolutely, if I wasn't sure that I would have a core group of best friends that I've had for more than a decade, my family, then yeah, it would be much easier for me to be caught up in a shitty relationship, right? Because people need people. I believe that. I do. I think that we desire touch and intimacy and closeness and affection. So I have invested myself in building up all of this stuff that helps keep me insulated from exploitation or from coercion. And again, that's an enormous privilege. I would love to know, I need to have a conversation about this with a queer woman, because I'm sure that the dynamics are let's just do a brown, because I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I wonder how the dynamics are similar, you know? That's one of the best things about the internet. Also, you know, it's so interesting. I'm gonna mention this in the video. When I was, I like to talk to older feminists because I just feel like, I don't know, I'm a young feminist, but I'm also an old feminist. Like, there's just things that I also, there's old school stuff that I really gravitate to that has now fallen out of favor. And I was talking to this older feminist, and she was saying, so y'all have, you know, perfected, you know, showing your ass and profiting off of that and whatever, and y'all call that freedom and autonomy, but just the act of showing. But she was saying, I don't hear you guys talk enough about negotiating the relationship, you know? And I was like, yeah. And that's a part of that's a part of the reasons why I was so drawn to Dworkin, is because our relationships to our bodies and to our sexualities cannot just be externalized. It cannot just be, I love my body because I'm wearing a bikini, or I love my body because I'm showing skin, you know? It also has to be relational, and it has to be internalized. And if we're not putting as much emphasis on the relationships, on the power dynamics, on how do you say no, right? Are we having those conversations? Are we having conversations about what does it mean to be naked with a man and realize, or anybody, sorry, I'm heterosexual, I'm sorry, shit. No, this is a real issue. But what does it mean to be naked and realize, you know what, I don't want to do this. What does it mean to navigate out of that situation? I don't know. Like I have, and maybe I should write this, right? Maybe I'm just thinking like, oh, it's not there, so maybe I should, you know, intervene in that way. But like, I just am not sure that, you know, I talked in another video about tools. I don't know if we are creating the tools, and maybe I will create the tools now that I think about it. That is my makeup. My makeup is done. Do I love it? No, but you know, I was winging it, so that's what you get when you wing it. It's okay. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you. Shout out to the patrons. Y'all are the shit. Leave a comment, send me a message. See you in the next video. Bye.